here with metalsmith Mark Nelson, and today Mark is going to show us a traditional technique. We've been talking today about symbolism and cultures of the world, and this is a traditional technique that is used in jewelry making.
It is, actually, and it comes from Korea. It's called Keum-boo, and it's used in a lot of Japanese, Chinese, Korean art, jewelry making technique. Keum-boo means attached gold.
Oh.
So we're taking a thin gold foil and doing a bonding process where it bonds it to sterling or fine silver. So.
Well, you can see on the samples that it's a really gorgeous effect.
Oh, it can be, and it's very, very versatile, too, so.
I could see you could use this in a lot of different applications.
You can.
And so you use gold leaf, is that right?
Gold leaf, and this is what it looks like, and it'll come in like a little envelope. And it's pretty thin, so and you don't want to handle it with your fingers.
And why is that?
You'll get oil on it. And if you get oil on it, you're not going to be able, it won't attach. But you can see how thin that is.
Yes.
Right here. So what you do is you kind of take a piece, and what you want to do, you still have to cut it into shapes. So you want to put it into like a tracing paper envelope.
Oh.
And what I've done here is I've taken half a sheet and made this little envelope right here. So now I can draw on the paper and cut out my shapes, or take a craft punch and cut shapes like that.
And you can do all that without physically touching it while you're working.
Exactly. Right.
Good idea.
Another key element is heat. How it's done is called diffusion bonding. Between heat and pressure, the atoms of the gold and the silver are exchanged, and so they're bonded. And they're not melted onto each other, but they exchange atoms and are attached.
Chemically bonding as you heat it up.
Not chemically.
Not chemically, okay.
Kind of atomically, mechanically done. So with heat and pressure.
Okay.
So what you need to do, this happens around 500 to 700 degrees, and you need a hot plate, and you can kind of tell about that temperature, the wood will kind of start to smoke.
So you could just use a chopstick or something to test it.
A little chopstick, and I'm going to start with a piece of just fine silver sheet, and we're going to put that on there, and we got to let that get up to temperature. And you can do this on PMC or metal clay. That's fine silver, but the key here is not to touch it. Okay.
Okay.
When it comes out of the kiln, it's going to have that nice frosty white. It's going to have a little bit of a tooth to it, and that gold will bond right to there.
Oh wow.
And I've cut out some shapes here. We'll see if this is getting up to temperature. I'm getting real close. I've cut out a little tiny flower. And you can use either a paintbrush or tweezers to put that on there. And you're going to use burnishers.
So you're kind of helping the process along by burnishing it onto the silver.
This is the pressure, right. And you're going to take it and start pushing in the center.
Oh, wow.
And just a very slight pressure. Now, what you can do is this, you know, you do this for a while, your hands are going to get hot. And you can use work gloves. I don't really like the welding gloves, the really thick gloves, because it's hard to hold on to these delicate tools. And another thing that happens is these burnishers get hot, and once they get hot, they'll start tearing that metal. So it's starting to grip. The burnisher is starting to grip on there.
I see that.
And so what you need to do is kind of let that aside, go grab a different one that's cool.
Okay, because you don't want to tear the gold leaf.
Right. And now we're just going to burnish that on there.
You can see it's really becoming a part of the silver.
It really is. I got a little piece sticking up there.
You're just going to burnish it down.
Yeah.
So do you wear any gloves at all while you're working normally?
I don't. But you know, if I'm doing this for like a long time.
Sure, if you were doing a lot of work, then you would.
Now here's a critical thing. Don't take this and quench it in water.
Oh.
It'll separate that bond.
Oh, okay.
Just set
you
it
want
aside.
It to stay hot.
Right, set it aside, let it cool naturally.
And you're using your steel bench block because that absorbs some of the heat?
Really, really well. Whenever I need to cool off any kind of piece, I stick it on a steel block, sucks the heat right out.
All right.
So here's a piece of metal clay.
And it's already been fired in the kiln?
It's been fired in the kiln. You can see the frosty whiteness of it. And we can use this one. And we'll just do
So you added the gold leaf after you fired it, right?
Right. I actually had this piece in the tracing paper envelope and traced out the shape I needed. Oh. And then cut it with an X-Acto knife. Now,
so that you could get it to lay right down in there in the right place.
Exactly. Now you can see it's kind of not tacky. It's because the metal's still cool. We just put it on there. And as soon as it gets warm, it'll start to tack.
Okay. So what happens once the gold leaf is already attached and you're cleaning this piece up? How does that work? Do you have to be careful when you're burnishing over, you know, to take away that the white color?
Not at all. It's not like plating where it's really thin. This is a substantial piece of gold on there, and you could burnish it, polish it, however you like.
Okay.
You can solder it. You can do pieces and then solder it, but you do have to be careful because if you heat it too hard, too hot, too long, the gold will melt right into the silver. Might be what you like though, because when you go to oxidize it, it'll do a totally different thing.
So happy accidents.
Exactly. Let's see if we're getting up to temperature
All
here.
right.
No, we're still a little cool. We need to wait on that just a little bit.
Okay.
But that's pretty much the technique. And there's a few sources online. If you do an internet search for Keum-boo, lots of stuff, lots of information on it.
Okay, well, let's go back to the hot plate one more time.
Okay.
See if it's starting to stick. Looks
Yeah,
good.
see how it's sticking there?
So that means that your precious metal clay has gotten hot enough, and now your leaf is starting to tack down.
It's starting to tack down, and we can go ahead and keep doing that until it's all the way completely down.
And then you would go ahead and finish the piece just as you normally would.
Exactly.
Well, that is a beautiful technique. Let's take one more look at the finished jewelry samples, because now that we know how to do it, we can really appreciate how gorgeous they are. Yeah, those are just some beautiful pieces there. Well, thank you so much, Mark.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you for watching.